The night was cold and silent. Only the sound of the wind moved between the tall black trees. Ethan, a young worker in the colony, walked home slowly after another long shift in the mining fields. The colony lights were far behind him, and the forest shadows looked alive in the dark. People always warned him never to walk alone near the forest. They said strange things lived there. But Ethan had no choice. The power lines were down, and the main road was closed, so he took the old path, his boots crunching softly on the dry ground. Suddenly he heard a sound, not like the wind, not like any bird. It was small, weak, like the cry of something hurt. He stopped, his heart beating faster. At first he thought it was just an echo, maybe his imagination. But the sound came again, a soft whimper. He followed it, his lamp shaking in his hand. There, under the roots of a broken tree, he saw a small creature. It was covered in dust and leaves, its fur shining faintly under the lamp. Its big eyes looked at him, full of fear but also hope. It tried to move but collapsed again, too weak. Ethan's first thought was simple. It's just a pet animal, maybe lost from someone's home, but something about it felt strange, too perfect, too bright in the darkness. He bent down slowly, whispering soft words. The creature trembled but did not run. When his hand touched its fur, a strange warmth spread through his skin. The creature closed its eyes. Almost trusting him at once, Ethan lifted it gently. Surprised at how light it was, he could feel its small heart beating fast against his chest. Carrying it home, Ethan kept looking behind him. The forest felt alive, like something was watching. He heard the wind move but thought he saw shapes between the trees. He walked faster, his boots slipping on the wet ground. Finally, the metal walls of the colony appeared, glowing with faint blue lights. Relief filled him. But the creature made a soft noise, as if warning him not to relax. Inside his small room, he placed it on the bed. It curled up, watching him with bright eyes. Ethan smiled, feeling something he had not felt in a long time. He was always alone, no family, no friends close by. Maybe this pet would change that. Maybe it would bring him company. He gave it water, some pieces of food. To his surprise, it seemed to understand what he was offering. It drank carefully, then rested. Hours passed. But Ethan could not sleep. He kept looking at the creature, feeling strange questions in his mind. Why was it in the forest, alone and hurt? Why did it look at him like it understood? The people in the colony often spoke about alien signs in the forest. They said the old ruins nearby were not human, but most laughed and called it ghost stories. Still, when Ethan looked at the creature, he could not shake the feeling that it was not normal. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, he woke up. The room was quiet, but something was wrong. The lamp was still on, casting shadows on the wall, and there, on the blanket, the creature's eyes were open. Glowing softly in the dark, Ethan froze. His breath caught in his chest. The glow was not reflection, it was light from within. The creature tilted its head, almost human-like. For a moment he felt it was studying him, learning him. Then the light faded, and it closed its eyes again, pretending to sleep. Ethan lay back, heart racing. He told himself it was only the light, only his tired mind playing tricks. But deep inside he knew the truth was stranger. This was no ordinary pet. Something about it was different. Maybe dangerous, maybe special. And he had just brought it into his home outside. The wind howled against the colony walls. Somewhere deep in the forest, a strange echo answered back. But Ethan was too busy staring at the sleeping creature, not knowing that his simple act of kindness would change everything, not knowing that the small pet would one day reveal its true self, and nothing in his world would ever be the same again. The next morning was calm, but Ethan did not feel calm. The creature slept quietly on the blanket, looking soft and harmless. Yet Ethan's mind kept replaying the glowing eyes he had seen at night. He tried to convince himself it was nothing. Maybe the light from the lamp. But deep inside, he felt something was changing, something he did not understand. He went to work in the mining fields, his thoughts heavy. The drills roared, the ground shook, but Ethan's focus was broken. All day he kept thinking about the pet. When he finally returned, he opened the door carefully. What he saw made him stop in silence. The creature was sitting on the table, its tiny paws holding one of his tools, not just touching it, but turning it, studying it. It looked almost like a child trying to understand a new toy. When it saw Ethan, it quickly dropped the tool. It curled up, pretending to be normal again. But Ethan had already seen the truth. "Are you learning?" he whispered. The creature blinked, almost like answering. Ethan sat down, his hands shaking. This was no normal pet, it was too smart, too human in the way it acted. His heart raced as he watched it crawl closer. It touched his arm gently, as if sensing his fear. In that small touch, Ethan felt calm again. It was like the creature was speaking without words. That night, strange things began to happen. The power in the colony flickered, alarms rang in the distance. People shouted in the streets about sabotage or alien tricks. Ethan stood at his window listening, worried. Behind him, the creature made a soft humming sound, and then suddenly, the alarms outside stopped, the power returned. The lights glowed steady again. Ethan turned slowly, staring at the small being. It was sitting still, eyes faintly glowing again. Was it possible? Had it stopped the problem the next day? Gossip spread through the colony. Miners said they saw strange shapes moving near the forest. Guards whispered that alien technology was interfering with systems. People grew nervous, locking doors early. Some even spoke about an alien spy living among them. Ethan felt a chill at those words. If they found out about the creature in his room, they would take it away, maybe even kill it. He decided to keep it secret no matter the cost. As days passed, Ethan noticed more changes. The creature no longer acted like a simple pet. It tried to copy him, walking on two legs for a few steps. It made soft sounds as if trying to form words. It even pointed at objects it wanted. Using clear signs, sometimes when Ethan was sad or tired, the creature would place its head against his chest and somehow his pain would ease. It was not just intelligent, it was connected to him. He started to wonder if it could feel his emotions. But with wonder came fear. What if the colony discovered this? What if the strange things happening around the mining fields were connected to it? And worst of all, what if he was not protecting it? What if it was the one protecting him? One evening, Ethan sat with the creature. The sky outside was red with the light of two moons. He asked softly, "Who are you?" The creature tilted its head, as if struggling to understand. Then with effort it made a sound, broken but clear. Han." Ethan froze, the tool in his hand falling to the floor. The creature had spoken his name. It looked at him with wide eyes, as if waiting for his reaction. Ethan could not move, could not breathe. This was no pet, no animal. This was something far greater. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Loud and sharp, Ethan jumped, his heart pounding. Voices outside shouted, "Open up, colony guard!" The creature ran to him. Pressing close to his leg, its body trembled, its eyes glowing brighter in fear. Ethan looked at the door, then at the creature. He understood the danger at last. They were not searching for a missing animal. They were searching for it. The knock came again, stronger. "Open now, or we break in," the guards warned. Ethan's mind raced, his choices closing around him. If he opened the door, they would see it. If he hid it, they might still find it. He felt the creature's small hand clutch his clothes. It trusted him completely. And in that moment, Ethan knew. This was not just a strange pet, not just an alien. It was something he was ready to protect. Even if it cost him everything, the door handle shook. The sound of boots filled the hallway. Ethan's breath turned heavy. The creature's glowing eyes stared up at him. And in that burning gaze, he felt one truth. This story was only beginning, and nothing in his life would ever be normal again. The door shook under the force of the guards. Ethan's heart raced, his mind spinning for a way out. The creature clung to his leg, trembling, its glowing eyes wide with fear. The voices outside grew louder. Last warning. "Open or we break in," Ethan whispered to the creature. "Hide quickly." But before it could move, something strange began to happen. The small body stiffened, its breathing fast and uneven. A glow spread across its skin, bright enough to paint the walls in silver light. Ethan stepped back, fear and awe gripping him at once. The creature cried out, a sound that was not animal, not human, its form twisted. Bones stretching, fur melting away like smoke. The tiny body grew taller, arms lengthening, legs reshaping. Ethan's eyes widened as before him, where the pet had been. Now lay a girl, a young alien girl. Fragile and shaking, her skin shimmered faintly, pale with a strange inner glow. Her hair was long and soft, falling over her shoulders. Her eyes, the same glowing orbs, looked at Ethan with both terror and hope. She tried to speak, but the words broke apart. Her voice was weak, trembling like glass in the wind. "Please, help," she whispered, collapsing onto the floor. Ethan froze, his breath trapped in his chest. He wanted to believe he was dreaming, that this was a trick, but the girl was real. her trembling hand clutching his sleeve. He knelt beside her, his hands shaking. You were the pet, he whispered, her lips parted, but no sound came, only exhaustion. Her chest rose and fell, each breath heavy. It was clear the transformation had drained her strength. The guards banged harder, one shouted, "Break it down!" Ethan panicked. Looking around the small room, he grabbed a blanket, wrapping it quickly around her. Then he dragged her toward the storage hatch under the floor. He lifted the panel, helping her crawl inside. Her glowing eyes met his once more, filled with fear. "Quiet. Don't move," Ethan whispered. The hatch closed just as the door burst open. 3 guards stormed in, armored and armed. Their helmets reflected the room's dim light. One stepped forward, glaring at Ethan. "We are searching for a dangerous creature," he said coldly. "Reports say it may have entered this block." Ethan forced his face to remain calm. "What creature?" he asked, trying to sound confused. The guard scanned the room with sharp eyes. "Strange, glowing, not of this world," he replied. Ethan's heart pounded, sweat dripping from his brow. The guards searched every corner, moving furniture. One even lifted the blanket on the bed. But the hatch beneath remained hidden, silent finally after long tense minutes. The leader spoke. "Nothing here, move to the next room." The guards left. The door slamming behind them, Ethan stood frozen, listening until the echoes faded. Then he rushed to the hatch, lifting it quickly. The girl was curled inside, shivering but alive. Her glowing eyes looked up at him. Tears slid down her face, but she tried to smile weakly. Ethan pulled her out. Sitting her gently on the bed, he whispered, "You're safe." "They're gone," but his own voice shook, because deep down he knew she was not safe. Not while the colony was hunting her. For a long time they sat in silence. Ethan staring at her, unable to understand. She looked so human, yet not. Her features were delicate, her skin too bright, her eyes too deep. Finally, she spoke again, her words broken. "Not pet, not animal. I am." Her voice faded, her head lowering in weakness. Ethan leaned closer, urging softly, "Who are you? Tell me." She tried again, whispering, "Escaped, hiding, hunted." Then she gripped his arm tightly, surprising him with sudden strength. "Please, don't give me to them," she begged. Her eyes locked onto his, glowing with desperate hope. Ethan felt his chest tighten. This was no longer about curiosity or mystery. This was life and death. She was not a creature to study, not a weapon. She was someone terrified and alone, and she had chosen to trust him. That night, as the colony quieted outside, Ethan sat awake. The girl rested under the blanket, her breathing steadier now. But Ethan could not rest. His mind swirled with questions. Where did she come from? Who was hunting her? Why could she transform into an animal? And most of all, what did it mean for him? By saving her, he had crossed a line. The colony would call him a traitor if they knew. But letting her go meant death for her, and his heart could not allow that. In the silence, she stirred, opening her glowing eyes. She whispered softly, "Thank you, Ethan." The sound of his name in her alien voice shook him to the core. He nodded slowly, though fear pressed heavily inside him. "You're safe with me," he said. Though he was not sure if it was true outside, the wind carried the distant sound of guards searching. Inside, the girl closed her eyes again. Finally drifting to sleep, Ethan sat by her side, guarding her, knowing tomorrow would bring more danger, and that his life, once simple, was now tied to something far beyond his world. The pounding at Ethan's door returned the next night. This time it was slower, heavier, like a warning instead of a demand. Ethan stood still, his heart cold in his chest. Beside him, the alien girl trembled. Her glowing eyes wide with fear, she whispered, "They know." Her voice cracked and broken. Ethan clenched his fists. Knowing she was right, when the door opened, only 2 guards entered. Their leader scanned the room with sharp suspicion. "We are still searching," he said, his voice calm but dangerous. The creature was seen near this block again. Ethan forced himself to meet the man's eyes. "You already searched me," he replied firmly. The guard smirked, stepping closer. "Sometimes creatures hide in plain sight," he whispered. Ethan felt the girl press against his back. Hidden behind the shadows, he prayed her glow would not betray them. The guards left after a long moment. But Ethan knew this was not over. They would come again. And next time they would not leave so easily. When the door shut, he turned to the girl. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "I can't hide you forever," Ethan whispered. "You have to tell me what you are." The The girl lowered her head, her hair falling across her face. For a moment she said nothing, only silence filled the room. Then she lifted her glowing eyes, sadness burning inside them. "I was taken," she began, her words slow and heavy. "Humans found my people, trapped us, used us." Ethan's stomach twisted. "What do you mean used?" he asked softly. The girl closed her eyes, pain clear on her face. "They wanted our power. They made us weapons." Her voice cracked, trembling like it would break. "But I escaped. I ran. They are hunting me still." Ethan sat in silence, the truth crashing over him. This was not just about a strange alien hiding in the colony. This was about secrets too dark to speak. The colony had lied, had experimented, had created fear. He looked at her again. This fragile girl who once looked like a small pet. She was not dangerous by choice, she was dangerous because of what they had done to her. "I won't give you back to them," Ethan said firmly. But fear whispered in his mind. If the guards knew the truth, they would kill him too. The girl's eyes softened, and for the first time she smiled. A small broken smile but filled with trust. "You, human," she whispered. "Different." That night, Ethan dreamed of fire, the colony burning, guards chasing shadows in the forest, and at the center the girl stood glowing, her power shaking the ground. When he woke, sweat soaked his clothes, but the girl was there, sitting quietly, watching him, almost like she had seen the same dream. Days passed, the colony's fear growing worse. Rumors spread of lights in the woods, machines breaking, guards vanishing. People whispered that the alien spy was not alone. Some claimed there was an entire army hiding beyond the trees. The leaders announced strict rules, no one to leave after dark. Ethan knew the noose was tightening. If he stayed, they would soon discover her. One evening, as he repaired a broken tool, the girl came close, her hand brushing his, she whispered. "They will not stop." Her voice carried a strange sadness, but also strength. Ethan looked at her glowing eyes. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Her answer was simple but heavy. "Help me escape." Ethan froze. Escape meant leaving the colony, leaving his job, leaving his life. But when he looked at her trembling hands, he knew he could not refuse. "You saved me," she whispered. "I save you too," her words echoed in his heart. Maybe his life had always been empty, and maybe this was his chance to change it. The next night, footsteps echoed again outside his door. This time the guards did not knock. They kicked it open, storming in with weapons raised. Ethan jumped to his feet, his chest tight with fear. The girl stood frozen, her glow faint but visible. The guards saw it at once, their eyes widening in shock. "There!" one shouted. The alien, before Ethan could react. One guard raised his weapon, but the girl lifted her hand, light bursting from her skin. The weapon sparked and died, falling to the floor useless. The guards stumbled back in shock, shouting into their radios. "Control, we found it." "We found the creature." The girl's glow filled the room like fire, but Ethan saw the pain in her face. Using her power was hurting her, draining her. Ethan grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the back wall. "Come on now," he shouted. The hatch under the floor would not be enough this time. They needed to run, to escape before the entire colony arrived. The girl nodded weakly, leaning against him, her glowing eyes fierce despite her weakness. "Together," she whispered. Ethan held her close, knowing there was no turning back now. The secret was out, and the real fight was only beginning. The alarms rang through the colony like a storm. Red lights flashed across the walls, warning sirens howled in the night. Ethan pulled the alien girl by the hand, running down the narrow hallways. Behind them, the voices of guards shouted, boots striking the floor like thunder. "Don't let them escape," someone yelled. The sound of weapons charging filled the air, sharp and deadly. The girl stumbled, her body still weak from using her power. Ethan caught her, pulling her close. "We have to move," he whispered, his voice breaking with fear. She looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with both pain and determination. "Forest," she said softly. "Safe in forest." Ethan nodded, though he knew the forest was filled with its own dangers. But right now the colony was death. The forest was hope. They burst through the back exit, metal doors slamming behind them. Cold night air rushed against their faces. The sky burned red under the twin moons, shadows stretching long. Ahead, the black trees waited, silent and endless. Ethan ran toward them, the girl clinging to his arm. But as they reached the fence, floodlights snapped on. Guards shouted from towers. Weapons aimed. "Stop or we fire," a voice thundered. Ethan froze, his breath shaking. The girl closed her eyes, whispering words he did not understand. The air shifted, heavy and strange. Suddenly the floodlights blinked out. The towers falling into darkness, the guards shouted in confusion. Firing wildly into the night, Ethan didn't wait. He dragged her through a broken gap in the fence. Into the forest they ran. Swallowed by shadows, the deeper they went. The quieter it became. Only the sound of their breathing filled the air. But Ethan knew the chase was not over. The colony would not stop, not after seeing what she could do. He kept running, branches tearing at his clothes. The girl stumbled often, her strength failing. Still she kept whispering, "This way, safe, safe." Hours seemed to pass, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning under the endless dark trees. Finally they stopped by a stream, water glowing faintly under the moons. Ethan helped her sit, her body trembling. She looked at him with weak eyes. "Hunters will come," she whispered, "not just humans. Others too," Ethan frowned. Confused. "Others who?" he asked, but before she could answer, the sound of engines cut through the night. Ethan's blood turned cold. Above the trees, bright lights appeared. Not the colony's floodlights, but harsh beams from flying crafts. Metallic ships, small and fast, weaving through the forest sky. "They found me," the girl whispered, tears in her glowing eyes. "Not humans. My enemies." Ethan grabbed her hand. Pulling her back into the shadows, the craft scanned the ground. Beams of light sweeping over the forest floor. Strange alien voices echoed, sharp and guttural. The girl shook her head in fear. "They want me alive, a weapon." "They will not stop." Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we don't stop either," he said. They ran again, deeper into the woods. But the lights followed, beams cutting the trees like blades. Suddenly one of the crafts fired. The ground exploded nearby, throwing dirt and smoke into the air. Ethan shielded the girl, the heat burning against his skin. He pulled her forward, coughing. The chase had become a hunt. And they were the prey. They reached an old ruin. Stone walls broken and covered in vines, the girl pointed weakly. "Hide." Here, inside, they found broken pillars and cracked floors. It felt ancient, older than the colony, older than humans on this world. Ethan hid her behind a fallen wall outside. The sound of the crafts grew louder, searching. The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes wet with fear. "Ethan." "Leave me," she whispered. "They want me, not you." But Ethan shook his head sharply. "No, I'm not leaving you. We started this together." The ground shook as another blast hit nearby. Stones rained from the ceiling, dust filling the air. The girl closed her eyes, her body glowing brighter. "No choice." "I must fight," she whispered. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. "You're too weak, they'll kill you." But she shook her head, her voice steady. "If I don't fight, they'll kill you." Her glow filled the ruins like fire. Outside, the alien voices rose in alarm. The crafts circled closer, weapons ready. Ethan held her hand, whispering, "We'll make it. I believe in you." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, the fear in her face turned to strength. She stood tall, her glow burning against the night. The air trembled, the ruins shaking with strange energy. Ethan stepped back, shielding his eyes. The girl raised her hands, her voice crying out in a language he could not understand, and then the forest lit up. A wave of energy blasted through the trees, tearing through the night sky. The alien craft spun wildly, alarms blaring. Some crashed into the forest, others fled into the distance. The ruins shook, stones collapsing. Dust rising like smoke, Ethan rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. Her glow faded, her body weak and trembling. She whispered, "Too many. They will come again." Ethan held her close, his voice firm despite his fear. "Then we'll keep running together." Outside, the forest burned faintly from the wreckage, but above, more lights appeared in the distance. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The ruins were silent after the blast. Dust floated in the air. Broken stones scattered across the floor. Ethan held the alien girl close, her breathing shallow, her glow fading. He whispered her name, though he still did not know it. She opened her eyes slowly, glowing faintly like dying embers. "You should have left me," she whispered weakly. Ethan shook his head, his grip firm. "Not now, not ever," he replied. Outside, the forest groaned with smoke and broken branches. The alien crafts had retreated, but only for now. Ethan knew they would return with more soldiers. More machines, and when they came, they would not stop until she was captured. He looked at her trembling hands, her face pale. She was strong, yes, but her power was tearing her apart. She needed rest. But rest was a luxury the night would not give. Ethan found a corner of the ruin still standing. There he laid her down, covering her with his jacket for a while. Silence ruled between them. Only the sound of the forest wind moved through the broken stones. Finally she spoke, her voice soft and heavy. "You want truth," she whispered. Ethan leaned closer, nodding, his chest tight with anticipation. "I will tell you," she said. Her glowing eyes lifted to the broken ceiling. "My people were not always weak," she began. "We lived free under the stars, hidden from war." Her words came slow, like pieces of memory. "But humans found us, first as explorers, then as hunters." Ethan's face hardened. His hands curling into fists, she continued, her voice trembling. "They took us, studied us, learned our bodies, our gifts." Her eyes filled with tears, but her tone grew sharp. "They wanted soldiers, weapons, not people." Ethan swallowed hard, anger twisting inside him. He thought of the colony leaders, of their constant lies. The girl's voice broke his thoughts. "I was a child when they captured me, one of many." Her hands trembled as she gripped the stone floor. "They made us change, forced us to learn forms that were not ours." Ethan realized she meant the small creature shape. She looked at him, her eyes burning with shame. "Pet, that was my cage," she whispered. "They made us small, harmless, so they could control us." Ethan felt cold rage spread in his veins. All this time he had thought she was simply alien, but she was a prisoner, a victim of cruelty. "They lied to everyone," he said bitterly. "They told us aliens were dangerous. But we were the monsters," the girl nodded weakly, her voice breaking. "Humans were not alone. Others wanted us too." Her gaze turned toward the forest where the crafts had fled. "They came from far away. They wanted our power as well." Ethan frowned, his voice sharp. "So both sides hunt you?" "Yes," she whispered. "I am not safe from any." Ethan sat back, the weight of truth pressing on him. The colony he worked for was not protecting humanity. It was hiding secrets, building weapons, and this girl, once just a pet in his arms, was the center of a storm bigger than he could imagine. The night stretched long, shadows crawling over the ruins. Ethan kept watch while she rested. Every sound in the forest made his body tense. He thought about escape, about running far from the colony. But where could they go? The galaxy itself seemed against them. Still, when he looked at her sleeping face, he knew he had no choice. He had chosen her, and he would not turn back at dawn. The ruins glowed faintly with golden light. The girl stirred, sitting up slowly, her glow a little brighter. She looked at Ethan, her voice softer now. "You still stay?" she said, almost like a question. Ethan nodded without hesitation. "You trusted me when you had no reason. I'll trust you the same." Her lips curved into a small smile, the first real smile he had seen. It filled Ethan with a strange warmth, a reason to keep moving. But their peace was short. The ground shook. Distant engines roared again. Ethan stood quickly, scanning the trees. The girl's glow flickered nervously. "They come," she whispered. Her voice tight, Ethan grabbed her hand, pulling her to her feet. "Then we'll be ready," he said, though fear clawed inside him. From the shadows of the forest, new figures appeared, not humans, not the colony guards. Tall alien hunters with armor that shimmered under the light. Their eyes burned with cold fire, their weapons strange and deadly. The girl gasped, stepping back, her whole body shaking. "They are the ones," she whispered. "They were promised my kind as slaves." Ethan stood in front of her, his fists clenched though he had no weapon. He felt small, powerless, but his voice was steady. "You'll have to go through me first," he said. The hunters laughed, a chilling sound. But the girl stepped forward, her glow rising again. "No, through us," she whispered, her voice stronger now. The ruins shook as her power flickered. The hunters raised their weapons, the forest trembling with their march. Ethan stood beside her, his fear burning into courage. He finally understood. This was no longer about one man and his pet. This was about truth, freedom, and survival, and together, they would fight for it. The ruins shook under heavy footsteps. Alien hunters marched forward, weapons glowing like fire. From the opposite side, human guards appeared, armored and armed. Red banners of the colony flapped under the morning wind. For the first time, Ethan saw them together, Humans and aliens both pointing weapons at the same girl. The leader of the guard stepped forward, his voice cold. "Give us the creature, Ethan. Step aside and live." The alien hunter raised his weapon, his own voice harsh. "No, she belongs to us. She is our prize." Ethan felt his chest tighten, his heart pounding. They did not see her as a person, only as a weapon. He looked at the girl, trembling but standing tall, her glow faint but steady, her eyes filled with sorrow and strength. Ethan raised his voice, anger breaking through fear. "She's not your pet, not your weapon. She's alive." The guards sneered, the hunters laughed. But the girl stepped forward, her glow brighter. "No more hiding," she whispered. Her voice echoed through the ruins like a storm. The air grew heavy, stones rattling under unseen force. Both sides lifted their weapons, fear flashing in their eyes. "Stop her!" someone shouted. But Ethan moved first, standing in front of her. Arms wide. "You want her, you go through me," he shouted. His voice cracked, but his stance was unshaken. The guards aimed their rifles. The hunters aimed their strange spears. The girl's glow exploded, wrapping Ethan in a shield of light. Bullets fired, beams shot, but the light bent them away. The ground split under the force, dust rising into the air. The hunters roared, the guards cursed. Yet Ethan stood firm, shielded by her power. She whispered behind him, her voice trembling but strong. "They cannot have me. I will choose my own path." Her hands rose. Light surging like a wave, the ruins blazed with power. Brighter than the rising sun, the guards stumbled back, some dropping their weapons in fear. The hunters pressed forward, but their armor cracked under the force. Ethan turned, seeing her eyes burn with fierce fire, but also pain, her body shaking as the power consumed her. "You'll die if you keep this up," he cried. She smiled weakly, her voice soft. "Better to die free than live as a cage." Ethan's throat tightened, his eyes burning. "No," he whispered. "We live free. Together." He grabbed her hand, pulling her closer. The glow wrapped around them both, binding them in one shield. Together they pushed back against the storm of weapons. The ground cracked, trees snapped. The forest itself seemed to tremble. The hunters screamed as their machines broke. The guards scattered, shouting in terror. No one could stand against the light. When the dust cleared, silence fell. The guards had fled back to the colony. The hunters lay defeated, their crafts burning in the distance. Only Ethan and the girl stood in the ruins, her glow fading slowly, her body weak but alive. She leaned against him, her voice soft. "It is over, for now." Ethan held her tightly, his own body trembling. He looked at the broken world around them. He knew the colony would never forgive him. He knew the hunters would return with greater force. But none of it mattered anymore, because in that moment, he felt a truth stronger than fear. The girl lifted her eyes to his, glowing faintly. "You saved me," she whispered. Ethan shook his head, smiling through tears. "No, you saved me." She smiled, her first true smile, filled with light and freedom. It warmed Ethan's heart like the sun after endless night. The ruins crumbled behind them, the forest still burning faintly. But ahead lay the open horizon, endless and unknown. Ethan took her hand, their fingers intertwining. "Where do we go now?" he asked. She looked to the stars, her glow flickering with hope. "Far," she whispered, "where no cage can find us." Together they stepped into the forest, leaving the broken colony behind. The world was still dangerous. The hunt not finished, but now they faced it as one. Not man and pet, not weapon and master, but human and alien bound by trust. The universe would come for them, but they would not bow. For Ethan had found more than a strange creature. He had found a friend, a protector, a new beginning. And the girl, once caged as a pet, had found someone who saw her not as power, but as life. Together they vanished into the stars, their story only just beginning.